The dollar feels like gravity, something so constant that questioning it seems unnecessary, yet every currency that ever held global dominance eventually discovered that trust is the only real foundation, and trust can shift faster than governments can react. In 1971, Richard Nixon closed the gold window quietly, almost politely, and within months the dollar became a promise instead of a contract, which means the money in your wallet has been operating on collective belief for over 50 years without most people realizing the structure changed underneath them. That belief is not irrational. The dollar remains the world's reserve currency, central banks hold it, international trade depends on it, and this creates an illusion of permanence that masks a deeper fragility, because the same global dependence that makes the dollar powerful also makes its potential decline more consequential than any currency crash in history. The mechanism is almost elegant in its contradiction. Countries need dollars to trade, so they buy dollars, which keeps demand high, which keeps the dollar strong, which makes everyone want more dollars. Yet this circular system has a breaking point that most economists prefer not to discuss in public. Consider what happened to the British pound after World War II. It was the world's reserve currency for decades. London was the financial center of the planet, and then gradually, almost politely, the world started using dollars instead, not because the pound disappeared, but because the network of trust migrated elsewhere over 15 years. The strange part is that a dollar crash would not look like a movie scene with burning cash and bank runs. It would look like prices rising faster than wages for reasons nobody fully explains. It would look like your savings buying less each month while economists call it temporary inflation. It would look like normal life becoming quietly more expensive. The real danger is not a sudden collapse but a slow erosion of confidence that accelerates once people notice it, because currency crises are not primarily financial events, they are psychological events that happen to have financial consequences, and psychology moves faster than policy. American households would feel it first in imported goods, electronics, fuel, clothing. Anything that crosses a border would reprice immediately, then domestic producers would raise prices to match the new competitive landscape, and suddenly the dollar in your account would be chasing the same goods with less purchasing power. The hidden mechanism is that the dollar's global role creates a massive supply of dollars outside America. Estimates suggest over 70% of physical dollars circulate overseas, which means a confidence shift abroad could flood domestic markets with currency that suddenly wants to come home, and home is where you live. What most people miss is that the dollar is already under quiet pressure. Countries are experimenting with bilateral trade in other currencies. Central banks are quietly diversifying reserves, and these individual decisions feel small until they reach a tipping point where the network effect starts working in reverse. The question that matters is not whether the dollar will crash tomorrow, it is whether the system that supports it is as stable as it appears, because the strongest structures often hide their weaknesses until stress reveals them, and the dollar has been accumulating stress for decades without a genuine test. The uncomfortable truth is that a dollar crash would not destroy wealth, it would redistribute it violently. People with fixed savings would watch purchasing power evaporate, people with real assets would see nominal values rise, and the gap between those who understood the system and those who trusted it would become permanent. Yet the deeper insight is that understanding this possibility changes your relationship with money itself, because once you see that currency is a social agreement rather than a physical reality, you start asking different questions about protection, positioning, and what wealth actually means when the measuring tool itself becomes unstable. The real cost of a dollar crisis is not the crisis itself, it is the decades of false security that preceded it, the belief that the system was too big to question, too established to challenge, too permanent to prepare for, because the most expensive mistake in finance is always the one you never considered possible. So the next time you hold a dollar bill, remember that its power has never been in the paper, it has always been in the shared belief that tomorrow it will still mean what it means today, and shared beliefs, while powerful, are also the most fragile thing a civilization can build its future upon.